Shalom, shalom. I'm back again. Another brief topic to discuss: the Nazarite vow. Nazarite vow, something that many of us don't pay attention to today, I don't believe. But let's get into it. It's going to be quick, hopefully. Let's get started. Numbers 6:5 says, "All the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled, in the which he separated himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow." Now, a lot of people don't know that the Nazarite vow specifically deals with people who are able to let their hair just grow and it naturally locks. That's why Samson had 7 locks, because his mother and father never touched his hair. They just let it grow and it naturally grew into 7 locks. So this last line here, it says, he shall be holy and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. Now, that word grow in the Hebrew is a word that you have to do a little digging to find. The word is gadol. As you see, the word gadol means to grow, to become great or important, to promote, make powerful, to praise, magnify, or do great things. Now, the word that gadol is derived from is gadil. Gadil literally means twisted threads. So when the scripture says that a Nazarite is to let his hair grow, he is to let his hair twist as it grows, so it grows together. Specifically, this means that they're growing what we call today dreadlocks or locks. Now, just as a little support here, in 1881, the book Ben-Hur was written by Lew Wallace. And on page 30, this book, it says, "From the throng a Jew comes next, meager of frame, round-shouldered, and wearing a coarse brown robe over his eyes and face, and down his back hangs a mat of long, uncombed hair." And then further down it says, "He is a Nazarite." So the Nazarites were common in the land to have long hair that was, as this passage states, that matted together. I mean, we all know what matted locks look like. Now, just to prove that the Hebrew people were a people, what they would call ethnic or African type, we're going to go to 2 Kings 19. Now, I'm not going to read anything from there, but there's a story about King Hezekiah and the king of Assyria named Sennacherib. Now, this picture is from the walls of Nineveh. This is when Sennacherib went in and destroyed Judah, and he took them prisoner. Now, if you pay attention, you see the Jews in the bottom right corner, 2 dead as they march, and then 2 at the very front of the line, one just a little higher up on the next level. But as you can see, they have afros. So again, it's showing that the vow of the Nazarite was for people who had African features, more specifically, who had what they would call spongy hair, like the Africans. So again, this is an image of Sennacherib taking the children of Israel from Judah. Now, Mark 8:23-25, New King James Version. So Christ took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. And he looked up and said, I see men like trees walking. Then he put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up, and he was restored and saw everyone clearly. Now I saw a commentary that said the reason that the man saw Christ as a tree was because without Christ, we can't see his provision. And after Christ restored his sight, then he saw Christ as a tree provider. But actually, this brother saw what was common in the land. He saw men like trees walking, men with great afros walking the streets. And again, just to prove a little further that the Jews were of African type and that they grew dreads. Acts 18:18. After the Jews' case against Paul was dismissed by Gallio, Paul stayed many more days in Corinth. Then he took his leave of the brethren, setting out to sea bound for Syria. He was in the company of Priscilla and Aquila. He had his hair cut in Cenchrea, for he'd been keeping a vow. So Paul just cut his locks off after being in Cenchrea for over a year. So he had let his locks grow out, and now it was time to cut them. Possibly he took the vow because he was going to be in Corinth, and anybody who does any Bible study knows that Corinth, being a seaport town, had brothels. It had all the liquor houses, everything you can imagine. So for a man who wanted to stay grounded, he took on this vow so that he could stand his lane. A little further down in Acts 21, when Paul came to the stairs, he found himself being carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the crowd that followed. They were shouting, "Kill him." As Paul was nearly inside the barracks, he asked the commander, "May I speak to you, please?" The commander said, "Oh, you know Greek, do you? So are you that Egyptian who lately stirred up sedition and led 4,000 assassins into the desert?" But Paul replied, "I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of that important city. I beg you allow me to speak to the people." So it's obvious that Paul, being a Jew, looked like an Egyptian. Now, as I stated in previous videos, the Egyptians of old were the Sudanese. They came into league with Mitzrayim, and they are what we know as modern day Egypt. But of old, I'm sure that they knew that the Egyptians were black people. So he was asking Paul if he was an Egyptian because the blacks, as is commonly said today, stirred up trouble. And it says he was asking or accusing Paul of stirring up a sedition and leading 4,000 assassins into the desert. But Paul says, "I am a Jew from Tarsus and Cilicia." So Paul, clearly being a black man, made known that he was in fact a Jew by blood and not by religion. So the vow of the Nazarite. One must refrain from strong drink, dead bodies, even the bodies of family members, and of course, shaving the head. Now, anytime they violated the vow of the Nazarite, whether they took a strong drink, and in that day, well, the scripture says wine or vinegar. So, any strong drink at all, the vow was over. Same with any dead bodies. If they were in the house and their father had a heart attack, then they had to shave their head and present an offering because they violated the vow of the Nazarite. So today we see our brothers walking around with locks. In the past, I had locks when I could grow hair, but I didn't understand the reason. Now, am I saying that we should be forbidden from wearing them? Not at all. But I am saying that we should be conscious of where the notion comes from, why it is a staple in our community, and why we're compelled to wear locks. Many think that it's a fashion trend, but in reality, I think the Most High is speaking to us through customs of old. But that's all I have for today. Just wanted to break down that Nazarite vow and also shine a light on what the vow looked like and who the people were that adhered to it. But again, shalom, shalom. I love you lots. Peace.